welcome to our daily news program broadcast to you live here on Canal Algérie. Coming up next. With total awareness and firm principles, Algeria fully commits to respecting the territorial integrity of countries, not interfering in internal affairs, and giving priority to dialogue and peaceful resolution of conflicts, enhancing its pivotal role in the African continent. The head of state calls for intensified efforts to achieve the prospects of the Italian-African partnership, emphasizing the necessity of enhancing integrated investment in Africa's infrastructure. This was highlighted in his address to the participants during the Rome summit. And the European Union expresses regret over the Malian authorities' rejection for the peace and reconciliation agreement stemming from the Algiers process. It emphasizes the necessity of prioritizing the comprehensive neighborliness advocated by Algeria, recognizing its role as the head of the international mediation group for resolving disputes and promoting lasting peace in the northern part of the country. Abroad, the Zionist destructive machine continues its aggression on Palestine, and our team covers the catastrophic situation of Shuhada al-Aqsa Hospital and highlights the repercussions of the International Court of Justice's decision and the occupation's retaliation culminating in the bombing of the UNRWA headquarters. Welcome again. First of all, the President of the Sovereignty Council of Sudan, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan Abdurrahman, wound up his working visit to Algeria, a visit during which al-Burhan met with the head of state, who expressed Algeria's support for Sudan to overcome its difficult situation and face the evil forces that target this brotherly country. A recap of the visit with Rania al-Bahri.
At a time when the world is facing the emergence of multiple geopolitical crises, Algeria remains constant in its positions, reaffirming its unwavering support for just causes and non-interference in the affairs of states, positions which gave Algeria a rightful place and respect among nations. Hailed after for its honorable positions, Algeria is committed to continue its effort in mediation in the resolution of conflicts, focusing on a political and purely internal approach. Principles confirmed during the visit to Algeria of the President of the Sovereignty Council of the Republic of Sudan, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan Abdurrahman, which testifies to the centuries-old relations uniting the two countries and the convergence of views on numerous questions of time. Algeria reaffirms its support for this brotherly country and for just causes on the African continent to overcome the difficult situation, conflicts and tensions and face the evil forces as well, knowing that this latter have become a threat to the stability of countries and the tranquility of peoples, an approach shared by the President of the Sovereignty Council of the Republic of Sudan, who affirmed that his country was facing a conspiracies plotted by regional and international parties. He said that he was in favor of the presence of Algeria at any Arab or African dialogue table or debate. He also praised the positions of President Abdelmajid Tebboune and the Algerian people imbued with nationalism, supporting just causes. This visit comes at a time when Algeria began its mandate as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council for a period of 2 years. Elected by an absolute majority, Algeria is recognized for its key role to support just causes. During this 2-year mandate, our country will work in favor of peace and security in the world, particularly in the African continent and in the Arab world, contributing to raise the voice of Africa, making dialogue and the voice of reason and wisdom heard.
During his stay, the President of the Sovereignty Council of Sudan also visited Jama' al-Jazair, where he was welcomed by the Dean of the Mosque, Sheikh Mohammed Ma'moun al-Qasimi al-Hassani. Algeria's guests went to the different infrastructures of this religious and cultural structure, and by being accompanied by the Trade Minister. And then he enjoyed the view of the Bay of Algiers from the minaret of the mosque. And at the end of his visit, Al-Burhan signed the Golden Register of Jama' al-Jazair. The president of the Sovereignty Council of Sudan made the following statement. Let's have a listen.
The Algerian people demonstrate daily to the whole world that they are conscious people in control of their decisions. Their priority is the unity of the ranks of Arab, Muslim and African countries. All these components of their identity are their driving force. I would like to greet them and express all my consideration and sincere wishes to them and to the Algerian government for success, strength of progress, security and prosperity. We are very proud to be present here and proud of our strong relations and stable with Algeria and the Algerian people and government.
وفخورون جدا بعلاقتنا المستقرة والقوية مع الجزائر ومع شعب.
On the second day of his official visit, the president of the Sovereignty Council of Sudan went to the National Museum of Al Mujahid, accompanied by the Minister of Trade and Export, Tayyib Zitouni. He visited the museum's different pavilions and received detailed explanations on the Algerian history, notably its glorious revolution. And at the end of his visit, the president of the Sovereignty Council of Sudan signed the Golden Register of the museum. The president of the Sovereignty Council of Sudan, General Abdel Al-Burhan Abdurrahman, left Algeria this Monday following a two-day official visit. He was seen off at the Houari Boumediene International Airport by the Prime Minister Nadir Al-Arbawi. And to this new development, the Italy-Africa Summit kicked off this Monday in Rome, featuring the participation of the representative of the President of the Republic, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf. The summit focuses on debating various issues related to common challenges between Africa and Europe, including climate change, food security, and energy security. During the event, the head of the Algerian diplomacy conveyed the President's greetings to the participants, urging intensified efforts to achieve the promising prospects of the Italian-African partnership. On his speech on cooperation, economic growth and infrastructure, Attaf emphasized the need to enhance investment in critical infrastructure in the African continent, particularly in vital sectors such as energy, transportation and communication. This direction aligns with Algeria's long-standing policy since independence, concentrating Algerian and African efforts in implementing several complementarity projects. Examples include the Trans-Saharan Highway, the road linking Tindouf and Essaouira in Mauritania, and the Trans-Saharan Gas Pipeline connecting Niger, Nigeria, Algeria, and Europe. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, was received yesterday by the President of the Italian Republic, Sergio Mattarella, and the President of the Italian Council of Ministers, Giorgia Meloni. On the sidelines of his participation as the representative of the President of the Republic in the proceedings of the Italy-Africa Summit in Rome, the Foreign Minister Attaf Ahmed held bilateral discussions with his Italian counterpart Antonio Tajani. On the occasion, Ahmed Attaf congratulated the Republic of Italy for its initiative to hold this summit and the launch of the MATI Plan for Africa, while expressing Algeria's readiness to participate in this plan and make it a successful one. In other news, the European Union expressed its regret over the decision of the Malian transitional authorities to denounce the agreement for peace and reconciliation stemming from the Algiers process. The EU's diplomatic service emphasizes that the civilian populations in the northern part of the country will be the first to bear the consequences of this unilateral decision, warning about the potential negative impact on both national and regional balances, with no alternative to the agreement emerging yet. The EU underscores the importance of inclusive dialogue advocated by Algeria, the leader of the international mediation, to resolve differences and promote the establishment of lasting peace in northern Mali. In other news, the President of the Council of the Nation, Salah Goujil, received today the President of the National Assembly of the Republic of Madagascar, Christine Razana Mahasua, and the delegation accompanying her. The two parties discussed bilateral relations and exchanged views on issues of common interest. The President of the National Assembly of the Republic of Madagascar and the delegation accompanying her were equally received by the President of the National People's Assembly, Brahim Boughali. The meeting was an opportunity to strengthen parliamentary cooperation, notably in terms of consultation and coordination regarding regional and international developments. The first bilateral commission for the promotion and development of cross-border areas between Algeria and Tunisia was held today. The inaugural meeting was co-chaired by the Minister of Interior, Brahim Rad, and his Tunisian counterpart, Canal Al-Fakki. Najah Tayyar with the details.
Defining a common approach to the development of border regions and strengthening the Algerian-Tunisian security coordination are the priorities on which the work of this first meeting of the Bilateral Commission focuses, a strategic objective shared by Algeria and Tunisia, with a view, among other things, to relaunch key projects in these areas.
The President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, is paying particular attention to the border regions by implementing various programs aimed at developing them and improving the living conditions of the inhabitants of these regions in order to improve the quality of life of their inhabitants, in order to reduce disparities and correct shortcomings. The development of border regions is one of the current priorities of strengthening cooperation and combating the threats to our countries.
Discussions are continuing between the Algerian governors and their Tunisian counterparts in order to draw up an effective roadmap for improving cooperation and developing the border regions of the two countries.
We will identify these projects we want to implement on the ground to develop these border areas and ensure a decent standard of living for the inhabitants of these regions.
Our discussions are centered on the governor of Jendouba and the province of Taraf and the border crossings. We are aware of the scourges facing the two regions, including smuggling, terrorism, and many others. Our work will enable better security coordination to deal with these threats. The measures that will be taken will boost activity in a number of areas, including agriculture, tourism, and trade. All of this will lead us to sustainable development.
These border areas are inhabited by families from both countries. That's why we need to strengthen economic cooperation between the two regions.
This meeting allows the creation of boosting trade ways between the border regions, improving their joint works, and strengthening the role of border crossings in developing a joint strategy to tackle major risks. The meeting is culminated in the signing of a roadmap setting out practical mechanisms for the promotion and development of these regions.
In a related context, the Interior Minister of Tunisia, Canal Al-Fakki, accompanied by the Interior Minister and the General Director of National Security, Ali Bidawi, carried out a visit to the Command and Control Center, where he received detailed explanations regarding the center's missions. He then listened to a presentation on the different cases dealt with in the center. The border crossing points and their surroundings areas are pivotal hubs for trade. Recognizing the immense potential for exploitation, these regions are undergoing development through the establishment of free zones, an approach embraced by Algeria to boost the country's economic strategy. Yassine Hamdi explains.
Algeria is making its first steps in the creation of free zones through border crossing points after the approval of the agreement on the African Free Trade Area starting from the 1st of July 2022. The main objective now is to relaunch these zones with basic infrastructures, vital installations and counters of the Foreign Bank of Algeria to support the exporters and facilitate the banking transactions.
It's the first time in the history of Algeria that a free zone is opened. It's located in the municipality of Dabdab in the Libyan border as materialization of a commitment of the President of the Republic. We salute this initiative. We come every 15 days to deliver our merchandise from Libya to Algeria. Thanks to these facilitations, the economic operators go through the passage of Boushibka. We export to Italy, Tunisia and Libya.
The creation of a free trade area with Tunisia, Libya, Mauritania and Mali through the border crossing points of Boushibka, Adabdab, Tindouf and Ingazam are regulated by the Law 1522 that establishes the rules of the free zones that will be used as exit points to the exports of the national production surplus. The African Free Trade Area is a promising market that gathers 1.2 billion of people with a GDP of $2,500 billion.
The situation allows us to integrate some African markets, especially with the will of the government to increase the non-hydrocarbon exports. A list of products will be established and will be reviewed during every memorandum of understanding.
Algeria is adopting a new economic orientation by creating free zones in the border provinces and by organizing commercial events in Mauritania and Senegal. These initiatives aim to promote the national products and boost the economy as part of the strategy of the public authorities for a diversified economy.
And to this good news for travel enthusiasts, the national airline company Algérie announced exceptional discounts of up to 50% on international plane tickets coming to Algeria from the 10th of March until the 13th of next April, and that in line with the instructions of the President of the Republic. Abroad, the Zionist attacks never stop in Gaza, causing hundreds of deaths. The first victims of the occupation bombings are always women and children, in addition to journalists who are martyred on a daily basis. Further details in this updated report compiled by Najah Diyar.
The Zionist occupier continues airstriking Gaza Strip in defiance of all the international condemnation. In the last 24 hours, at least 350 Palestinians were martyred in Khan Yunis in the south of the enclave in new attacks by the occupation army. While the Zionist occupiers deliberately target women and children, they also target journalists to prevent them from reporting on the crimes against humanity and genocide committed against the Palestinian people with total impunity. Just yesterday, the Zionist occupation forces bombed the house of the journalist Islam al-Lu'lu' in the center of Gaza. The journalist was martyred along with his wife, son, daughter-in-law and grandson. Since October 7, 2023, 122 journalists have been martyred in the Palestinian territories. As the occupation army continues its barbaric massacres, Gaza is experiencing a real humanitarian disaster, and 9 countries have suspended all funding to the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, the UNRWA, after the occupation claimed that its staff took part in the Flood of Al-Aqsa operation carried out by the Palestinian resistance. Faced with this situation, the United Nations Secretary General and the head of the World Health Organization warned against such a decision, which threatens the lives of millions of Palestinian refugees as well as the security and the stability of the region. The United Nations Secretary General called on donors to not suspend funding at this critical time. Cutting off funding, he said, would only harm the people of Gaza who are in desperate need of assistance. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation, for its part, stressed that this decision is nothing more than collective punishment that will only exacerbate the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and called on donor countries to guarantee the continuation of aid. This decision comes in times while the Gazans are living a real-life nightmare after 115 days of constant aggressions by the Zionist occupier.
And we wrap up our news with this collector who discovered a passion for ornaments and which he ended up making it his profession and is now officially a flea market collector. Report by Yanis Eid Belqasem, taken up by Rani Al-Bahri.
Objects of all kinds nestled in every corner of the store, which have lived one life for several and will probably be destined to live many more. We are at Usama, collector since his early childhood. He started with stamps and coins and then made the sale of second-hand objects.
Depuis que j'étais jeune, j'étais petit, j'ai commencé à...
Since I was young, I started collecting coins, even stamps, telephone cards. After having collected quite a few objects, I wanted to expand my collection. We moved towards watches and everything that has relationship with decoration.
Les montres main, les horloges et tout ce qui est objet de décoration.
For Usama, each object tells a story of all the people who owned it before ending up in his little shop. An open door to a bygone time, an experience and an endless source of inspiration.
On peut trouver 7 armoires berbères avec des motifs berbères.
In this store you can find this Berber cabinet with Berber motifs which dates back more than 50 years ago. It is made of solid oak, wood, and I can show you another old piece which is a canvas art painting which represents Tipaza.
Voilà, huile sur toile, signé, et qui représente Tipaza.
Behind this passion for antiques lies a big talent. Painting is a second passion for him. Each of his paintings captures the timeless beauty of all things.
Depuis que j'étais petit,
Since I was young, I was inspired by the painter Paul Cézanne, who created magnificent canvas. I was inspired and I started to draw.
Nothing is lost here. Everything is transformed. Old or vintage objects, everything deserves a second life. Usama opens his little place to all those who like hunting for old and antique objects.
And with that, we come to the end for today's program. Thank you so much for tuning in.